Everyone. In this video, we are going to take a look at how we can build a carousel web part in SharePoint using React SPFx. So before starting the project, you have to create a list in your SharePoint that is called the carousel list. These are the column configuration of it. We have the title and description column of a single line of text, redirect URL field that has a hyperlink kind of column. We have the isActive one, which is a boolean yes no field, and its default value should be set to yes. And there is a sequence column which is number kind of field. After that, you should install the additional libraries. So we are using the list item. So we are using the PNP.js to fetch the data from list. Then we have the library for the slider called as React Slick. For this also you need to run the two commands to install the package and to install the CSS as well. Currently I'm using Node version 18.20.3, so my PNP.js version is 4.11. But if you are using lower version of SPFx, then you should read the documentation. So there are some additional steps if you are using lower version. Then these are the steps. So I have created project directly and I have created all the boilerplate code. Then I have installed the PNP.js and React Slick slider. So let me show you what kind of library that we are using. So this is the official website of the slider. If we go to the docs, so here the step-by-step installation process is given. So if you want to read it, so the first we have to install the package. Then we have to add a CSS as well. So this is the command to add a CSS. And these are the imports that we are using in our code. After that, if you take a look at it, this kind of slider we are using. So it has the arrow and the dot navigation as well. So we are mainly focusing on the single slider and the multiple items. So we can show the multiple item. If you take a look at the example, there are several examples there to play with, and we have the configuration option in a object format. So once you build the web part, you can just go through it and play all the settings. Let's get back to the list. So this is the list I have built. I have added some dummy data. And for the sequence, I have added the random number of sequence and the active field. So the use of active field is whatever the item is checked here, only those items we are retrieving from the list instead of getting all the data. So currently all items are active, so we'll get all the data. Sequence is something that we are using order, because let's say if you created an item that you want to show at a custom order, so you will use the sequence. So let's say you want to have the last item to be appear on top, so you can just change its sequence to 1. After that, let's get back to the code. So here the first thing what I did, I have deleted all the boilerplate code. Then I have initialized the interface of the single SharePoint item. So this is the data we are getting from the list. So we have the ID, title, description, the redirect URL, and the sequence. So these names should exactly match with your SharePoint column internal name. So if you use the another internal name, so you have to use the same one. So I will show you how you can find the internal name if you are working or if you are just starting the SPFx development. So if you click on any column name, so you will find the field equal to, and whatever the name is, you have to use the exact name in your code as well. If I change this name, then internal name will remain same, but the display name will be different. But you have to use the internal name only. So then create a state to hold the items. So the first I have used the list item that will hold all the data from the SharePoint list to display on the web part. Then another thing I have used the loading indicator. So it will be a boolean field. So it's a true or false. So initially the loading will be true and the list item will be blank. So this is the constructor I have used. Then just return a function to get the data from list and just console here and component did mount. So once your web part built on the SharePoint, the first one, it will get the data from the list. And this is my render function. So currently I am just displaying the loading indicator. So as you can see, the condition is here. Whether the loading is true, then only we have to showcase the loading. Then go to props.ts file. Here we have to add two properties. The first one is list name and the second one is context. So if you're planning to have this web part on a multiple site, then it is a best practice to have the list name from the property pane so that user can create multiple lists on a single site and they can use it instead of having the value static in your code. Then go to webpart.ts file. Here you need to add it. Then set up the context at this.context and the list name at this.property.list name. At the end, I have removed the header. I have deleted the group name. If you want to have the header, if you want to display some information, you can use it. But for now, I am just using this one, the property pane text field and the list name I have, where user will pass the list name. And go to carousel.txt. So let's get started with getting the data from the SharePoint list. So as we are using the PNP.js, so let's go to the site and see how we can get that. So here we can get the items. First, we need to add all the imports. Then we have to use this line to get the data from the list. So I will just copy it. So here, first you have to give the context. So let sp equal to, so let me copy this one. So we have to use SPFi, and here I have to import it. And then we have to add SPFx and we need to pass the context. So context we already set up on your TypeScript file. So I will just refer that this.props.context. So the SP context must initialize before you are using any PNP.js commands. I will use the async await. So it will wait for the context to be generated here and then it will run the below code. Now let's store the items from the SharePoint list. So let me just create a variable that store the items. And here we need to use the await because we need to wait for API to return the response. And here I will use sp.web.list. Then we need to get the title of the list. So we have the method called getByTitle. And here instead of passing the static value, I will use the property that I have used in property panel. So the props dot list name, and then we have to use the items to get the item. So once we get the item, I need to store that item in the array. So what I will do, just do this dot set state, and the list item will be the item variable because here it will store all the items. And once we got the item, we don't want to show the loading, so the loading will be false. So for now, what I will do, just return all the data in the console. So I will save it and let's wait for the code to run. So as you can see, the gulp service is running and I have deployed the component without ship. So we can easily test it in multiple sections on our SharePoint. So the code has been run. Let me go back here. Let me open the console and let's hit the refresh to see if we are getting data. So as you can see, we got the data here in the response. If you see any error like the list name is undefined or anything like that, what you need to do, you need to pass the list name here because we are using the property, right? So you have to pass the list name here, then republish it so that you will see the data. So these value we can also pass automatically that I will show you. So the very important step is to get the data. So as you can see, we got all the data, like we have the redirect URL, we have title, description, everything. Now let's go back to our render method and we will see how we can implement this. So if you look at this, so I will zoom it. here we have this one div container, and inside that we have the multiple divs, right? So we can consider all these div as our items. So if you look at here, so we have the array of objects. So we got the 4 items. So you can consider it as a 4 div. So it will simplify the understanding process. So we just have to initialize slider and close the slider, and inside that we have to pass the items. And here we have the settings. As you can see, I will explain you this setting one by one. So let's first copy this structure, go back to our code, and here I will show the data. So here I will use a div, and we have the slider. So let's import it first. Add import from the, I don't want Fluent UI, so I will just copy it from here. So once you install all these npm packages, so as you can see there is an error. We have to add the types as well. So let's copy that command and paste it. So it will install the types for it. So let's wait for this command to execute. So after a minute, the code has been run, and let's start the gulp serve again. And here you see the setting giving error because we did not initialize the setting object. So let's go back. Let me copy this one, and in your render method just put that. So let's understand this, what the setting has. You cannot use any name that you want here because this is the name that the library is using. So you should the exact same name. So dot is equal to true. So let me show you here only. So when the dot is set to true, then you will see these navigations. Then we have the infinite one. So let's say if you have 3 or 4 items, so once you scroll, so let's say you go back to the fourth item, the last item you got, then these arrow will be disabled. So you cannot have the infinite scroll. If you want to have the infinite scroll, so it will go from 1 2 3 4 and then start with 1 2 3 4 again. But if you keep this off, it will stop at the last item. The speed will be 500. So once I click on it, whatever the speed you are saying, how much speed you require. Slides to show, that means how many slides you want to show here, that you can customize. And slide to scroll. So once I click on it, how many slides you want to scroll at a time. So currently it's saying 3. So as you can see here, I'm on 1 2 3, and if I click on it, it will slide 3 slides, right? So this is the setting. And if you check the responsive, if you want to make this web part responsive, then there is a settings as well. So here this is the code. So let's understand this one until our time this gulp serve is running. So if you want to make the web part responsive, then what you need to do, you just have to copy this one, add to your code, specify the breakpoints, because breakpoints is something really important in order to make your responsive. So these breakpoints are nothing but your device width. So don't get confused like what is the breakpoint. We generally use this in CSS only, but here you need to specify like this is for a 1024, 600 and 480. And the same setting object as you can see here. So initially on the big monitor or laptop, you will see the 4 slides. If you go to 1024, so let's say it's a kind of tablet. So there you want to show the 3 slides. If you go a device below, then you want to show 2. And for the mobile, you will show the 1. So this is nothing rocket science. So this is really simple. And all these properties are well documented in this. So if you click on it and if you search a little bit down or in a GitHub as well, so you will see each and every property description. So you can customize this web part according to your need. Now let's go back to our web part. So the gulp serve is running. Now what I will do in this slider, I will just map every object of my array. So here we need to use the array. So this dot state dot list item dot, we need to use map. Map is used to iterate with every object within your array. So as you can see here, we have all the divs here. So these are different items, right? But we don't have a static kind of item to display, right? Currently we have 4 items in a list, but maybe in future there will be 400 or 40, right? So we have to map with each and every item dynamically. So we will use the map, then use a key as item, and its value will be the carousel item. So whatever we have initialized here, right? So it is a best practice to use the interface for every instead of putting any value. Then we have to return the data. So let me add a return statement, and here I will use the paragraph tag to show the title. So the item dot title. So whatever the name you put here, the exact same name you have to use. And just for a quick test, let me show you what if you add any here. And if I want to show the description, if I put dot, then I'm not getting any auto intelligence, we can say, or auto suggestion to what column we need to use, right? As I have added any. But what if I directly map to that item, and if I use dot, then as you can see, I will directly get that suggestions. So it's a best practice to use this one only. And then I will use sequence. Okay, this kind of data I will use for now. And let's see if you are getting anything. And one more thing we have used in the code, we deployed and we have added the render method as well, but we forgot to include the CSS. So let me go back to documentation. So we have to use this one. So let me copy it. So this is the CSS that actually holds all the slider animations. So these 3 lines you need to import. So let me save this and let's wait for this to run. So it's run successfully. Let me refresh and we'll see if we are getting any slider. So as you can see, we got the slider. Here you can see the dots are visible. I'm getting 3 slides. Now let's add some CSS to it. So here I will put a div tag. So this is my main div container. In that I have these items. So let me just add some CSS. So it will be carousel item. I will give background color yellow. This is just for the testing purpose to show you how it working. And in carousel item, we have the title. So let me just give the font weight as 800. Then we have the description. Here I will give the opacity as 0.8, and then instead of sequence I will just use one button here because we have the redirect URL field and I want it to redirect when I click on that button. So let me just add a button and let's call it as view more. So here for the button, it will just add a static button. You can use the FluentUI library as well to add a button, but I generally prefer this way for these small kind of things. So let me just add some CSS as border none. Then the padding will be 4 pixel and 6 pixels. So the 4 pixel from top bottom and 6 pixel from left right. Background color will be, let's say, and let me just give the class name to JSX as well. The class name will be styles.carousel item. For the title, it will be class name. For description, the class name will be styles.description. And for the button, so as you can see, I have used the hierarchy method, and this is the best practice to use in SCSS. So as you can see, we have the one container, we have the carousel item. In that, I have this one. So you have to follow the hierarchical structure. So whatever the HTML hierarchy you are using, so it's always the best practice to follow the hierarchy. Because sometimes what happen, if you add a multiple web parts, and let's say if your web part is using any class that is used in another web part as well, so it will affect that component. So you must use the hierarchical structure. So let me refresh and see. So as you can see, I got the data and there is some CSS applied. I know this is not looking good, but yeah, I just wanted to show you how the content is displayed. So we have the AI integration, then we have the description from the list, and we have the view more button. Now on click of view more, I want to navigate. So what I will do, will just add one function on click. So here I want window.open, and then item.redirect URL, and I want to open in a next tab, in new tab. So the target will be blank. So now that is the most important thing. You can play with the CSS, you can have it customized in your own way. The next thing I want to show you, like how we can have this configuration dynamic. So currently the infinite is true, dots are true, slide to show. So what we can do, we can create a property pane field for them so that you can customize your web part. So let me just open the props.ts file here. Okay, the first thing what we will do, we will have the property whether to show the dots or not. And here I will add a property show dots to boolean. Then we will set infinite to true, or we can directly put it there. So the speed I will show carousel speed, it will be a number. Then slides to show, so I will use the slides to show as well. So it will be a number kind of field. And slide to scroll, I will put 1 because every time I need to put 1, so I will not using any extra property for it. Now as you can see here, the web part is not scrolling automatically. I have to click on the dots to move to next one. How we can integrate autoplay with it? So if you go to example, we have the field autoplay. So you just need to copy this one, go to your web part. So here we have the autoplay. Autoplay is set to true. So I will set it from the property pane, and the property will call as enable, let's say autoplay. Autoplay speed I have already defined. I will use the same name so you will get an idea what kind of property I'm using. And slides to show, I think it's fine. Okay, now the only thing I need to do, I need to change here, but first we have to copy it, go to your webpart.ts, add them here and here as well. So it will be this dot properties dot, I will change it one by one. So it will be autoplay speed, this will be slides to show, and this will be enable autoplay. Now we have added them here. The next thing we have to add here as well. The first, let me just keep it here. The first one is show dots. It's a boolean, so we need to use a toggle functionality instead of having the checkbox. So toggle will be great. So let's use that property pane toggle. So once you click on that, it will automatically import at top. So as you can see, the property pane toggle is automatically imported. Or if don't, what you can do, you can just hover over it and it will give you the suggestion to quick fix. Then the first parameter will be what is the property name, and the property name is show dots. The label I will put show navigation. Then there are the fields, the off text and on text. So the off text will be no, and on text will be yes. So when your toggle is off, it will show you no, and if it is on, then it will show you yes. Then the next one, we have to specify autoplay speed. So autoplay speed, that will be a carousel. Sorry, not carousel, it will be a slider. So it will be a slider. So the property pane slider, use the same name here. Label will be autoplay speed. We have to specify the minimum and maximum value. So the minimum value will be 5, and let's say maximum value will be 10. Then we have the enable autoplay. So the toggle we are using, if you want to enable the autoplay, so I will just copy it, change the label, and there is one another property remaining, slides to show. That is also a slider. So let me copy it, copy this property name here, and slides to show. So the minimum will be 1 and maximum we can put 4, because if we take a look at our computer, then maximum 4 or maximum 5 tiles will be look great, but if you keep 6, 7, then it will be very congested. So now let me save everything. So let me just restructure it. So enable autoplay will be here, autoplay speed will be here, slides to show, I will take it here. Now the one more important thing, like what you can customize here. So you can just disable the property pane field based on certain values. So if your autoplay is enabled, then only you want to show the autoplay speed, right? So what you can do, you can make it disabled if autoplay is true or false. So just use the property this.properties.enable autoplay. So if it is false, then only you have to disable the autoplay speed property. Now that we have set up in the property pane as well, now let's go back to our main code, and here we need to specify those. So let me just put this.props.show dots. Infinite will be true every time. Autoplay speed will be this.props.autoplay speed. Then autoplay enabled. So here also this.props.autoplay enabled. I think everything is done. Okay, this one is remaining, slides to show. So here also I will use this one. So we are done with all the configurations, and let's see if we get any issue or error while doing that. So let me just save everything, and it's running. So till that time I will just make few CSS configuration changes to make it look good. Let's say color will be black, color will be white. Let me put margin here as well. Position will be relative, and what I want is, currently if you can see, the view more button is not that much aligned properly. So what I will do to make it absolute position, so that it will always appear at the bottom. But first you need to have the parent container relative position, then specify the position as absolute. The bottom will be 0 and left will be 0. So from the bottom there will be 0 margin, and from the left also there will be 0 margin. So let me just save it. And what we can do, we can also increase the card height as well. So currently it is set to small. I think we did not set the height of it. So let me just quickly check what height will be look great. So let's say it will be 350 pixel. Fine. So the height will be 350 pixel. I will just remove the background color. We don't need it. Also, I'm going to show you one thing, how you can use the fonts and themes from your SPFx sites directly. So here, as you can see, the fonts are not looking that much great, but if you take a look at it, I have used the custom fonts. So if you don't know how to use the custom branding of your organization, then I will add a link in the description as well, so that you will know how to use it. So for this, you need to go to settings, go to change the look, go to fonts, and here this font is I have customized. So what if I want to use this font in my SPFX without importing directly in my code? So there we can use it the variable. So if you go to the site, I will put the link in the description as well. Use the SharePoint brand center fonts in SPFX. So as you can see here, we have the variables given for each and every one. So what I identified is just use the two variables. The first one is the custom font 1000, that will be your heading font, and custom font 100, that will be your body font. So let me go back here. You can see the fonts are not looking that much great. Let me go back to code. Here, what we need to do into font. So let me just copy it from here. Family, it will be where font family custom font 0. So let me just give you how it working. So this is the custom font 700, custom font 600. This name we have to use. So that is the name I use. You should always include font family here, and it must be in the where. And this is not I discovered from my end only. So this is the tip. So don't forget to include the font family as a prefix when you are using one of the custom font. So you should always read the complete documentation, because sometimes important note are always at the bottom. So let me just save it. Right. So this is the 100. So that means every font family will have the inter font. But I want to use my heading font in this place in the title. So let's copy this one. And in the title, instead of 100, I will just use 1000. So let me save it and let's wait for this to run. Now go back here, refresh it. So here we have the AI integration, then introducing Copilot chatbot. Okay, fine. As you can see, it's not working because there are some CSS changes we did and some properties we have added. So let's customize them. So here I will show navigation slides to show. I want to show 5 slides, 2 slides. So let me just close it. And so you can see the changes. So if I increase the number, as you can see, the slides are customized. Then if I enable autoplay, I will have the autoplay speed. So it will automatically slide. You can get few more button that we have customized. If I click on it, it will directly put me to that link, whatever the link I have specified there. So in this way you can have it. So currently I did not use that much content and that not work on the CSS. So that is something that you can work on your side. So as you can see here, I think something is off. The autoplay speed, the speed is 500 is set. So let me just refresh it. Okay, I think the autoplay speed is something that is in a milliseconds. Okay, so let me just multiply it by 1000. I forgot to do that here. And there is another property as well. So as you can see, my mouse cursor is here. So outside of that container, so it's continuing carousel. But if I hover over it, it will stop the action. So this is also you can customize if you want to pause the carousel on a hover. So if you go back here, here we have the property pause on hover. So if you set to true, then if you hover over it, the carousel will pause. But if you don't want to have that functionality, you can not you can directly set it as a false, or you can just ignore this property. Now let me check here, it is completely run. Let's refresh the page. So now as you can see, now it after every 5 seconds it will scroll. So I forgot to add in multiply by 1000 there. Now as you can see, the fonts applied from my sites only. So Meriwether is the font from, they are all the Google fonts actually, and this is the Inter font. Now there is one more thing, how you can do error handling. So this is the most important part. So let me go back to my list. So currently all the items of the list are set to required. So let's say I turn the required off. So let's say I will remove the description from here. So this will not have any description. And let me just refresh it and see if we still get the data or not. So here as you can see, we don't get any data. Let me just add one more item with all the blank fields. Let's see if we get the data. So here as you can see, we get the data. To have the validations, what you can do, you can have the required fields in the column. So if you are new to SharePoint, I will show you how you can do that. So here we have this field, the required, this column contains information, right? Then in order to you have that, but let's say in some cases the redirect URL is not always provided, right? So how you will handle that? So let me just delete redirect URL from some of the items. So let me check the item that is saying news sharing capability. Let me just refresh it. Now as you can see, the view more button is still displaying, but I don't have any redirect URL associated, right? And once I click on it, it will open it, but when I am clicking on it, it's not actually working. So what we can do, when the redirect URL is not set, we can just hide this button. How you can do that? So here we have this button. So directly put in, we can just use the expression that item dot redirect URL. If it has the value, then only show the button, and if not, then do not show the button. Also, there is one more CSS kind of thing. If I hover over the button, the cursor is not changing. So just add one property in the CSS, cursor pointer. So it will have the pointer one. So if you hover over it, so you can see the cursor is changing from arrow to pointer. But in our case, as we customize using CSS, the pointer is not displaying. Now we have to work on the filter kind of thing. So remember what we use the active filter and the sequence one. So whatever the item is active, that item only I need to show. So what I will do, just I will delete this blank entry and I will make only 2 items active. So what I want to do, only those items are active, that item I want to show. So let's modify the API. So here we have the API call, we have the items, then just add a filter. So here filter, what we want to do, we have to specify it active equal to 1. So whatever the items are active, so true and false, that means 1 and 0 here. So if you put active equal to 1, it will only get you the list of item whose status is active. Then we have to order it. Use order by here. And from which column you have to order? First specify the column name. The column name is sequence. Give a comma. because in REST API you use sequence ascending, descending, ASC, DSC, but here the format is little bit different. So if you want to make it ascending, just don't specify anything here, but if you want to make it descending, just set false. So I will use true. And for your information as well, I will use that sequence number here, so you will get to know how it's working. So here the item dot sequence. So let me just save it and let's wait for this to run. Now let's go back here. Now let's go to network tab, and here I will apply a filter. So I will show you here as well how the REST API is building behind the scene. So here, as you can see, we got 3 items, but there are actually 2 items. I will tell you the reason, but first we are going to see what data we are getting. So here, as you can see in the response, we got the 2 data in a value, and this is the REST API generated. Now the reason you see this data, because our infinite is set to true. Now the thing here is we are showing 3 items, but our list has only 2 items. So in that case, it shows the duplicate item for you. So what you can do to avoid this, and let me tell you one thing, this is not an error actually. This is how it is designed to show the infinite value. So let me just go back here. So these are some error handling steps I wanted you to understand. So if you show infinite only in that case when the list item is more than the item that you have set in the property pane. So what you can do, so just first get the list items. So this dot state dot list item dot length, right? So we need to get the length of it, must be greater than whatever items you are showing. So let's run this. So the item length what we are getting from the list must be greater than whatever the item we are showing here to avoid this. And let's run this. Let me go back here and refresh this. So as you can see, now only 2 items will be displayed. Now let's go back here. As you can see here, the sequence here, the second is displaying, 4 is displaying. Now let me just turn everything on and let me change the sequence. So it will go in a second one, it will go in a fourth one, it will be second, and it will go in fourth. Wait for a few seconds because sometime it will take time, not more than a minute, but yeah, wait for a few seconds. Otherwise you will just save it and go here and refresh. Just wait for a few seconds and then refresh. So you can see here the dots are showing, right? So this is the sequence, the first, second, and fourth. So this is how you can build a Carousel web part. So you can work on the CSS, and if you face any issue at any point, you can just let me know in comments. I will also provide the code and link to this in a GitHub repo. Also the relevant link like how you can add the SPFx variables to have the themes and fonts from your sites. And if you have any doubts, you can just let me know in comments. Thank you.